I think you just saw like the greatest opening ever on the front of this. This is Water, the study of martial arts. This is number 2. If you didn't just see an opening, well, there was supposed to be one there. Mojahed Fudailat. Yeah. Mojahed Fudailat. He created that open. He also created an awesome animated funny of me and Max Kellerman and a few other people. It was hilarious. I fucking laughed hard. He's a great, talented cartoonist, and support him. Mojahed Fudailat. Find him. I will tweet him out more, but go find him. He's hilarious. Water. What are we doing here? We are currently in the golden age of fighting. That's what we're in. That's where we are. Sometimes when you're in any moment in history, people don't realize it until much, much later. And then they look back at history and say, wow, that was the Renaissance, or that was, the decline of Rome, or that was the golden age of fighting. My job, as I see it, is to help us see that and share how and why that is. And one of the main reasons right now that's happening is there's a great decentralization in fighting. Whether you're speaking to Greg Jackson or Dwayne Ludwig, or you're speaking to Duke Rufus, or you're talking to Matt Hume, who at the time we are recording this is getting ready to have the greatest fighter of all time, Demetrius Johnson, attempt to break the record for the most title defenses ever. All of these great minds, their next layers are to peel back and dissemble the belief systems of what people believe fighting is. And I've been studying that over the last couple of years. It's self-evident. It's undeniable, because once you get 10 or 12 or 15 of the very best coaches and fighters, and you start to talk to them and they all say, this is the stage this game is at. Bruce Lee, learn the principles, abide by the principles, then dissolve the principles. And the stage that fighting is at now is the dissolving of the principles. And in doing so, people are looking for that seam or crack or thing that the opponent or the greater world believes that they don't believe or they know to be untrue. And this part has been, I've been getting a lot of pushback on this from some people that, watch a bit of fighting, some people that watch a lot of fighting. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but this is happening in everything. I don't follow football. I don't. But with the little bit that I'm following football, I see it happening. It's happening in tennis and gardening and politics. It's happening in everything. This decentralization, disruption, call it what you will. Disruption is a part of the process of decentralization. In football, if you talk to a kicker or a kicking coach or a football expert 5 years ago and said, where are we at with punting? They would say, well, punting has developed to this point. They were at a plateau. Right now, there's 6 or 8 Australian punters in the NFL. Why would that be, Mark? Why the fuck would they have Australian punters? Because they're different. If everything is the same, different wins. Different is hard. Different is challenging. And that's what's happening. People believe things, and sometimes things are true. This is the truth. But then the world around you changes. There's such a good example in politics. I've got some more specific study to share with you today. And more, I want to look at rules. Rules, what are they? Why are they? But there's such a great example in politics. It's hard to bring up because politics creates an argument right away. I'm going to try to do it without picking a side or a judgment of any kind. I'm going to try to and I have a weird feeling people are still going to get mad at me, but I'm going to try to do it just from 30,000 feet. So again, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, hey, punting, it's where it is, boom. Bring in the Australians. They think differently. They kick differently. They spin differently. All of these things, perfecting the kick, made it this way. These guys did it a different way. right? So in politics 5 years ago, any expert would have said to you, you have to come across very stable, non-controversial, non-confrontational. You have to avoid any type of debate or controversy wherever possible. You don't ever want to say grab her by the pussy if possible. Like, you know what I'm saying? This was what they would tell you. This is the facts. The president didn't do any of those things and became the president. Please, I'm not trying to start things about emails and Russia and all this shit. None of that matters for the sake of this discussion or whose side you're on. The sake of this discussion is saying that everybody would be like, you cannot do this, and become the president. And somebody else said, I can't believe they still believe that. That was either never true or, much more likely, that was absolutely true in 2007. In the world that we lived in when those rules were written. But then the world changes. People change. Our ideas change. What we know changes. What we believe changes. And yet we keep rules the same. Rules that were true. I'm going to try to find a better example. So please, if I made anyone mad and looking at the President of the United States from as gentle of a spot as I possibly could, I apologize. It wasn't my intention. So I'm going to try another idea. You cannot swear on television. And this is going to help us get to the part that I wanted to talk to about today about the global martial arts landscape. And that's what I'm really interested in right now. Once you look at what a punch is and what a kick is and why this guy thinks this way and how you use a fake level change to an overhand right and what happens against the fence and how you study jiu-jitsu and all of those things, eventually what you will see is that all of it is part of a big global organism, and that organism is fighting itself. The systems of fighting themselves. It's fascinating, I swear to you. Some of you agree, that's why you're here. Some of you harshly disagree, which weirdly is also why you're here. But I'll take it. Because maybe you'd be like, that guy's an idiot. But I did have that one idea about rules, and it did make me think, and that's all I'm hoping for. But so you cannot fucking swear on television. I worked in television for a lot of years, and I still work in television today. I work for TSN, the best sports channel in the world. And I mean that. No offense, ESPN. It was cool of you to run that piece that I did for the UFC, by the way. But TSN's coolest, best people I've ever worked with, best team I've ever been around, geniuses, brilliant. But you cannot swear on TV. That's a fact. Okay, so how did that happen? First of all, so this is going to help us get to rules, and rules in fighting, rules of like law, also rules of thumb. These are agreements, right? These are beliefs. So, Mark, why do you think we can't swear on TV? What can't we say? Fuck, shit. The 7 dirty words. Carlin's a genius, right? That's where comedy, you see the genius of comedy, but it's shit, fuck, etc., etc. I can do this. My friend Dutchie, who is a anchor at TSN, awesome cat, man. That is a killer cat. Like all other people, will occasionally swear. But then we were on his what do you call this? Periscope. Sorry, Periscope. We were on his Periscope. He's like, bro, don't swear. Like, but in the real world, everybody's swearing. But somewhere, somebody decided that these words were powerful. Powerful. That was the decision that they made. So what do I mean? You might say, it's not powerful, bro. It's like they're offensive. Well, if a word has the ability to offend you, that is powerful. Or somebody would say, they can negatively affect the youth. Well, if a simple word has the ability to negatively affect a kid, that's pretty powerful. So it's just a word, a collection of letters, but we gave it meaning, and then we labeled it powerful or dangerous. If something is dangerous, Clearly it's powerful. So we made the decision that these are powerful words. Then we decided that you can't have them. Now, we were hoping that by not having them, maybe we would protect people from these powerful words. But what actually happened, so let's say, I don't know when that happened. I'm going to say 1963, but it was probably earlier. But let's just, whenever it happened. The FTCA or whatever, whoever these people are, we've decided it's powerful. Now we created a law, and we brought in people to enforce it, and created a scenario in which you cannot say it. And what did we do? We made those words way more powerful. Way more powerful. Way more powerful. And that's the only fucking place where they're not being said, is when you turn on the TV. So now 10, 20, 30, 40 years go by. At the same time, people are also, welcome to Tuesday night, whatever. They're speaking a certain way. When people started speaking that way, someone spoke that way, and it was different. And because it was different, it was interesting. And because it was different and interesting, people don't innovate, they imitate. And suddenly everybody started speaking this way. And it's no longer different. It's just weird, right? Why, when we, in the rest of the world, people don't go, absolutely, anytime I get an opportunity to throw the football with a spiral, I will take that. There's no I in team, and, we're just going to go out there and put a lot of effort in and, put a lot of pucks on the net and see what's going to happen. Commentators did it. Athletes did it. It's weird, right? The reason is because when someone did it, it stood out. Then everyone does it, it no longer stands out. The meaning of it changes. So anyways, all of this is happening. So now when you turn on TV, it's this weird ritualistic thing. And I love fucking television. I love it. I've maybe never had more fun than I had down in Vegas working with Russ Amber and Darren and Jason and the whole team making television. And people loved it and they were happy and we enjoyed it and it was cool. Doesn't mean it's not weird. Doesn't mean it's not strange. Doesn't mean it's not worth examining and seeing what we can learn from it. So anyways, the rest of the world starts swearing like a motherfucker. And that in no way prevents it. In fact, if anything, it kind of makes them a little dirtier. And if you're a 12-year-old and you can say motherfucker, it gives them more power. So it changed the meaning. It changed the world around you changed. Now we live in a world where people use language the way they use them. They speak the way they speak. And suddenly, what is the internet? It's all about authenticity. How weird is it that we celebrate being real? How's that even possible? Because we created an unreal. Authenticity, oh man, this guy's authentic. And that takes us back to politics. Part of that was a recognition of authenticity because the world around you changed. The competitor, the other, the woman running for the other position, I'm not using names and I'm not using parties, and I don't mean to offend anyone. These are observations, but somewhere over there, she starts looking weird and fake. Just like somebody on the news or somebody in sports or that team at the desk, because there's a producer whose job it is to maintain that thing and recreate it, and nobody asks any questions. We're just sitting around making it weirder and weirder. The world changes, but we make it the same way. And suddenly I'm using politics as an example with no judgment or side. Suddenly, the swearing grab her by the pussy is real and authentic. And, whenever we get the chance to go and show our might and embrace our fellow man, dude, what are you even saying, right? Are you following me? What was once, that's what everybody wants, and this is insane, nobody, becomes different because we become different. So, again, using you can't swear on TV, now you can swear on the internet. And it feels so weird and authentic and real. And I used to work in cable television. And we would have discussions with people that had different roles in the company. And me and Ramdeen would be sitting there going, oh man, Demetrius Johnson's the fucking best. We were on the internet. And there'll be people in there going, you can't swear. And it's like, dude, you don't understand. This is the internet. This is how people speak. We're going to look like weirdos if we don't speak like people speak. It's such a strange thing. So anyway, so martial arts does exactly the same thing. This is what we're looking at. The world, a punch makes sense and does what it's supposed to do and performs the way you want it to perform in the environment that it was thrown in. If that environment changes, if the opponent changes, if the way he thinks changes, if the way that people are expressing combat at a mental level changes, if you punch the way you punched in 1992, it doesn't function the same. Can it work? Of course it can work. But it doesn't function the same. That is the world we live in with everything. This is not some weird mystical martial arts thing. This is what's happening in everything in the world. Everything. We're in a time of massive decentralization, disruption, and change. And these moments have happened many times in our civilization. Many, many, many times. And every time people just think the world is exactly the same as it was a year ago, or 4 years ago, or 5 years ago. It's not. I saw a baby today playing with a iPad or some mini baby version of an iPad, and they were playing a game. It was fucking mind-blowing what they were capable of. Now, some people will look at that and go, that's terrible, you shouldn't be doing that. To me, you would be hindering that child to not have them do that. The formative time of their brain, other people are using their brain, other children are using their brain in a way that will train it in its most trainable time, when the time where it can learn multiple languages and interpret the world the way it does, in something that they will be most likely interfacing with for the rest of their lives. You have to let them do that. That's the world you're going to live in. You deny the world you live in, you will literally harm the development of your child. Now, that's my opinion. It's definitely, there's an open debate. I don't have children. I might think differently if I did, but you're sitting there looking at a changing world, and the world that they will live in will exist with this type of interface in ways we can't even imagine. And if we hold them back from developing there while others do, who knows how far back they could be 20 years from now. The world changes constantly, and fighting is changing. And the coaches, the fighters, the top people are looking for the things that we believed to be true before that either have never been true and we just believed them incorrectly, or were once true but are no longer true because the fighters changed, fighting has changed, the knowledge has changed, the way fighting is expressed has changed. This is where we're at. It's also why we are in the golden age of fighting. You know, the golden age of martial arts, the decentralization. I've had these conversations ongoing for years now with, and I mentioned it in Water Number One, but whether it's Greg Jackson, you can go look at that interview from December of last year where he talked about decentralizing his systems. When I talked to Six Gun Gibson, what was fascinating, when I went to study Cub in Albuquerque, I also went to study Erwan Lacour, who is decentralized movement, human movement, fitness, interacting with the world. He's a fascinating one too, disruptor in his own right. Erwan Lacour, check it out. I also spoke with him a lot about the ideas of disruption in the lead up. So, and Six Gun Gibson already was realizing that this amount of decentralization so fast, and this is, you know, a challenge when you take on big ideas. They were moving too fast when it came to Groovy Lando. That Lando was decentralizing his thinking so much so that they were moving too quickly away from some fundamentals in training and fundamentals in being strong and fast and so forth, that he was like becoming a little too much of an artist too quickly. Right? So, and I know there are people that, despite the fact that you can now go and next time somebody speaks to Matt Hume, instead of saying, why do you think Demetrius is not, you know, big pay-per-view draw? You can ask him about this concept and he will be like, yeah, of course. I mean, this is where we're at. Dean Thomas will tell you how and why they are seeing the trends are trends in fighting. So, for example, for a couple of years, many of the highest teams believed that the single leg didn't work, so they stopped shooting in and trying to scoop it. Many of them. The reason they believed that is because Jose Aldo, Renan Barão, and their entire team would offer you the single and then use your attachment to that leg to know where your head is and elbow the shit out of you, do other damage to you, reverse you. They took that entry. This is Dede Pederneiras, absolute genius. He took that entry to your single and turned it into, well, now when you are here, never mind the completion of the single, or when I have you attached, they developed a whole game around abusing you and reversing you when you acquired the single. It was so good that people were like, okay, the single's dead. Well, Dean Thomas and Mike Brown and Jorge fucking Masvidal, you can swear on the internet. What up, Jorge? How about we do brunch again after you beat Stephen Thompson? Okay, fight Stephen Thompson. You know I know, but we how about we do brunch again after that? Hit me up. Let's do it. But these guys go in there and they're like, if everybody stops shooting a single, people stop playing the game of what to do when a single is in, then they get weaker at it. And they're always, Dean in particular, if you watch this man's work, he's always figuring out what is going to be the trend. What the trend reflects is the global belief of what does and doesn't work. Once he knows what that belief will be, he's already figuring out how and why you're going to be penalized for believing that. They're all doing it. This is what they're all doing. So as we're sitting here watching the decentralization of martial arts, and this is all a direct result of the evolution of mixed martial arts, the forcing this cutting and pasting and examination, and the sort of flawed period where we went through a period where everybody believed that this is MMA. There's a Bible, you do all of these things, this is how it's done. Never true. And when people think it's true in 15 years, it won't be true. And when they thought the kickers had got to the maximum level they could, they were wrong. And when they thought that Steph Curry wouldn't come along and change the free throws, they were wrong. And when somebody in gardening says, well, we've hit a plateau, they are wrong. They're always further. And where the further is where the seams, the cracks, and the weaknesses in the belief system is. The fact that Conor got his ass kicked from rounds 5 to 10 in no way changes anything I'm saying. It doesn't. Now, this is what's happening. And this is why we're in the golden age of martial arts. And this is what we're seeing. So let's disassemble something while we're here. This idea of figuring out where we are in the water. You know, the last thing the fish discover is the water. Figuring out where we are in the water, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. By the time it's making sense, and people who are like, that guy's insane, have just dropped away. Or a couple of them have been like, fuck, I get it, okay? You repeated yourself 12 times and I finally get it. And then others will build on it. By the time that's all happening, it's going to be wrong again, because the world changes constantly. Forever. And so does martial arts. Forever. And it continually will. You know? It just will. Everything will. Everything you do and everything you believe is evolving and being built on every minute of every day. So let's look at rules. Okay, so what are rules? What are rules? You can't swear on TV. Okay? You're not allowed to grab the fence. Not allowed to grab the fence. Why? Why can we not grab the fence? You're not allowed to 12 to 6 elbow. Why can't you do that? You're not allowed to kick the head of a downed opponent. Why? Somebody believes these are too powerful, right? I think when we see the kicking the head of the downed opponent, I think we kind of agree. We're like, fuck. Somebody said, well, it looks too violent. That's powerful. You know, oh man, it's something people can't stomach. I don't think the American audience can handle like head kick to the down opponent. That's powerful, right? It's a powerful thing to make you sick to your stomach. That will cause serious brain damage. That's powerful. These are too powerful. The 12 to 6 elbow, mistakenly, Somebody saw, many people know this story. Big John tells it, he was in the room, that as they were making the rules, literally, they were all just kind of pulling the rules together with the people that knew best. Mark, you know this story, right? There was a guy putting on a kung fu demonstration, and he did a 12 to 6 elbow and a big stack of ice or flaming bricks or whatever, and they all smashed. I think it was ice. And as they were going, the rules, okay, you can't eye poke, you can't gouge, you can't fish hook. Fuck, you can't do that. We're not having that. Really, it's nothing, right? So they were wrong. They were wrong about that one being too powerful. Eye poke, pretty fucking powerful. Lose your vision, hurts, water in the eyes, a lot of, puts you at a disadvantage if it damages your eye. It's pretty powerful. So we agree these things are too powerful and we can't do them. Now, as a martial arts purist, there's a part of me that wishes there were no rules at all. No rules. Why? Not because I like seeing people hurt. I actually hate seeing people get hurt, which is very strange for somebody who loves martial arts so much, but I do. I hate seeing people get hurt. So I don't want there to be biting and eye gouging because I want people to get hurt. Unfortunately, and the reason we can never have this, no matter how much I may want it, on Rogan's Fight Companion, he was like, well, once you can genetically fix the problems, you can do this. And that's how his brain works. He's way ahead. Cheers to Joe Rogan. Thanks for everything, man. But my thinking is, I would hate that 2-year period where people got their eyes gouged out and got their face bitten off. I would hate that. I think we can't have that, which is why we'll never get there. But what would happen inevitably is the way the martial arts evolve is we would evolve. It's so fucking brutal to get your eye poked out or torn out or shredded or damaged or go blind in your eye that the martial arts themselves, through the people and the choices and the trial and error, would evolve in such a way to minimize eye pokes. So they would eventually, because they're so dangerous, they would eventually become ultra rare. They would have to, or else you wouldn't be able to, your entire career would go. So a very logical first step is that fighting would happen way far away. And poking out of eyes or kicking the head of a downed opponent actually would probably make fighting less exciting to a lot of people because it would take place at fucking safe distances as much as possible. I can't have somebody poke my eye out. I would hate to have somebody lose their eye. So sadly, we can never get to the point where the martial arts could evolve in such a way that we could see this purity. The purest martial art would be at a point where you could do anything. And my job, while evolving and developing, is to not let you, right? But sadly, we hurt people. And sadly, we cannot have that because there's no way to get there without the inevitable period where guys with their fucking eyes hanging out and their faces bit off. And we just can't have that, right? But so when we look at rules in another way, they are agreements. Mark and I are going to fight. They bring us a contract. In that contract, we agree we will not do these things because we're civilized and these things are very powerful. We agree that we will not do them. The problem is with a lot of these things is once upon a time when we said we will not grab the fence or poke each other in the eye or kick each other in the balls, there was a penalty. But now, this isn't a fucking illusion. There is no penalty. I get a free eye poke and everybody knows it. Stefan Struve, 2 eye pokes. I'll probably get 2 fucking eye pokes. That's 1 for each eye. So we have to either enforce them, or once we realize they are not going to be enforced, what are you going to do? And I ask this question. A lot of these conversations, what I love about them and what I hope that people find interesting about them is that I'm just asking. I'm just bringing up possibilities. I'm just asking for multiple sides. I'm looking for conversation. I'm not saying poke John Jones in the eye. I'm not. But I am saying you are faced with fighting the greatest fighter in the world and he's going to fucking poke you in the eye. What are you going to do? Can you fucking imagine that? Demetrius, I don't think Borg is super concerned that Demetrius will poke him in the eye. He probably doesn't need to be, and Demetrius probably won't poke him in the eye. And yet somehow John Jones fucking pokes almost everybody. And I don't judge him for that. Now you can. And I fought 9 times and competed in 100 other martial arts contests, 5 or 6, matches in many jiu-jitsu tournaments and some smokers and all kinds of stuff, thousands of rolls. And I don't cheat for my own reasons. I believe that there's that it means something to me to agree to this and then do this. So I don't cheat. I don't want to cheat. In fact, if you play Monopoly or cards or cribbage, if you never played cribbage, there's something beautiful about that game. At the cottage, just try it. Just cheat. You can get away with it. Everybody should. I assume everyone has tried this. Have you tried cheating cards?
I've stolen Monopoly money before.
Yeah, stolen Monopoly money before. So have you, I'm sure. And if you haven't, you should try it. You need to try this. So what you're going to find is there's very little reward there. In fact, if the game ends and you won, it's not there. It's not real. And you don't feel it. And that's why we don't cheat. But John Jones is a fucking martial artist. And I'm not picking on John Jones. I could use 100 examples. And in fact, I've got a couple others of very fighters we think of as incredibly honorable. I'm just going to mention them as possibilities. Because that's all I'm doing here today. I'm exploring ideas, right? So I'm not picking on John Jones. But let's say he chooses to poke some of these guys. It's a powerful weapon that is actually available to you. You're not going to get penalized. That's an illusion. It's a lie. I don't know why I'm holding up. This was supposed to be the contract we signed earlier. This is real. These are good philosophies. This was the contract that we held up earlier. It's a lie. John Jones can fucking poke you. Two. Stefan Struve. 2 eye pokes. Right?
Even before that, the weight cut. You can't even make weight. You already violated
Yeah,
the contract.
exactly. So there's all these violations. When you get away with them, John Jones, so you know why it's of no, you get nothing out of cheating at fucking stealing Monopoly money? Because the beauty of the game unfolding and playing within it is the challenge. But there's a difference here. Champion of the world, millions of dollars. Now you're invested different. It's not Monopoly money anymore. It's real money now. And I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm not endorsing one way or the other. I'm asking you to think about it. So let me give you an example. And again, I'm going to say what if. So if you know me, one of the things you know about me is that one of my 5 or 10 favorite fighters ever is Uriah Faber. There's many reasons for this. He, Mark Hominick, guys like this inspired me as a lighter weight fighter, bantamweight, to want to fight. He was a character. The very first fight I ever watched with my wife ever was Uriah Faber versus Mike Brown 2, Mike Thomas Brown, who's also one of my very favorites and always will be. Plus he trains Jorge, so fuck, right there. One of the people that trains Jorge. So I admire Uriah. So he fought Francisco Rivera. Now, in his career of his fights, pretty clean, pretty squeaky clean. Part of his image, part of his identity, part of how he fights. Cisco's kicking his ass. And I say that as a Uriah Faber fan. And fuck, what do you have, 38 or 40 wins? Like Uriah has fought everybody. The toughest and the most dangerous. And then at some nights, Cisco's having a great night. He's probably between ranked in number 20 or 25 in the world at the time, and he's kicking Uriah's ass in round 1. Round 2, they're fighting, and somehow Uriah Faber pokes him in the eye. Can't see. Uriah hits him a few times, grabs the choke, chokes him. Bad eye poke. Probably an accident. And I don't know if Uriah would ever tell us. Personally, in a career of 50 fights and huge accomplishments and dramatic things that he's done for himself, for his team, for the people who follow him, martial artists know somewhere in there. If he did that on purpose, I'd admire it in a way. Do you understand? And I don't mean that. That's what veterans do. They find a little crack in there. That's what it is to be a veteran. And in his 40-odd wins, if one of them was just that veteran move to poke this guy in the eye, who's beating him up, get him, choke him, and win that fight and move on, leave it behind, move on to the next one, might have made him $200,000, a win. He's going to get one more. He's going to get to fight Frankie Edgar in his future and get one more crack at Dominic Cruz. And to do that, he had to fucking poke this guy in the eye. I don't know, man. Lifetime of doing it right. That one little trick. Now, he probably did it by accident. But if he came and told you, yeah, this one time, let me tell you, in a career, and he's telling you 50 different stories, and this time you wouldn't believe this guy was so big, and he was kicking my ass, and then this happened, and this time I got lucky in here, and man, you wouldn't believe it, I had 2 broken hands, fighting Mike Brown, and I still fought my odds, all these great stories, and yeah, this one time, let me tell you, yeah, Cisco, I fucking poked him in the eye. Would you begrudge him that? I mean, it's there. You know, I don't know. I really don't know. As a martial artist, what does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Because your automatic result is, well, he's dishonorable. Is he? Is that one moment in a lifetime of honor, is that dishonorable? Some of them say if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Is it how you cheat? Because again, go back and watch this fight. It's very possible it was an accident. But if it was on purpose, the fact that he was also capable of acting, that he was capable of acting, capable of going, hey, man, well, you know, I didn't know. I haven't seen the footage. Did that make it okay? Because in soccer, the greatest sport in the world for tens of millions, maybe 100 million people, I don't know the math. When the guy dives, that's considered like a sporting play, right? That's considered a sporting play. Over time.
Yeah, it's just generally accepted. It's part of the sport. You deal with it.
Yeah, just so why? Yeah, exactly. You use it. So why is that a sporting play? Over time, you realize the power of the penalty, and they found a way to fuck with the rules and the structure and the belief and what they do and what they say they'll do, and they're going to penalize them because the power of it is so powerful that they do it, and it became part of the strategy. And when your team does it and that guy does that fucking dive, and then the ref buys it, you fucking stand up and cheer like a motherfucker.
There's this belief in the NBA and basketball called the Jordan call. So back when Michael Jordan was on top of the world, if you got near him and you just touched him, there's a foul.
The Jordan call.
Yeah, you got free throws. So now any star in the NBA in this day and age, Kevin Durant,
Yeah.
Curry, if anyone goes near him and touches them, they get free throws. So obviously the fans,
Yeah.
teammates, they take advantage.
Yeah, they take advantage of that. So the Jordan call was if anybody get too close to Jordan, that they were going to get a call. It became just what happened. Yeah.
If it wasn't a foul,
Yeah,
it was a foul.
right. Now, so you have to admit the only difference, well, no, there are many differences, sorry. A difference between the eye poke and the throwing yourself to get the ref to make that call so your team will win is years and years of acceptance and going, oh yeah, some of this stuff, I don't know. The other difference is it's fucking dangerous, right? It's not all that dangerous when that guy looks like, you know, like just hurls himself up, and it's dangerous. But I don't know. And I'm asking this because these things are way less black and white than we think they are. You know? I know you have a strong belief in this, but there was a time when people threw themselves in soccer or football where people had a strong belief that was cheating, that was dishonorable. You know what I'm saying? Just think about it. Please don't judge me. I don't cheat. I don't endorse cheating. I get mad when they cheat. Sometimes. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I see it as finding that little crack in there. That little seam. You know? Did Uriah find that? Let's go a different way for a second. Just hit me. Holly and Jermaine Durandamy. Protect yourself at all times. And the round ends when the referee ends it. And the bell is there to signal the referee. Jermaine Durandamy hauled off and smacked my girl Holly, and I was mad because I am biased. People are like, you should be impartial. Why the fuck would I be impartial? I can do whatever I want. That was an illusion. Just like this we're talking about. Please do me a favor and have zero expectation that Polly or me or Rogan or the weatherman would be impartial. That has never been true, and that will never be true. They're humans. They're biased. All of them. Also, these are just television channels and entertainment. There's no structure, law, expectation. These are all illusions. You should have zero expectation that when you see, I mean, and I think most of us do now. It's weird. Problems like, Paulie's biased. Of course Paulie's biased. Connor punched him in the face. Fuck, of course Paulie's biased. How could he not be? But I think we have less expectation for that now, because if you ever turn on CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whichever one is yours, it does seem strange that we call them all news, and yet they all... Anyways, when you see the person, that Kelly Conway or whatever, or like you see any of them, you know what side they're on. Do you have any expectation? The place we used to expect impartiality was news. But now that it's like, no, this is bad, and then the other guys are like, no, it's good. You can't possibly expect Paulie or Brendan or Rogan or me or Ariel or anybody to be unbiased. Why on earth would anyone expect that? That to me is shocking. But anyway, so I'm biased, as is everybody, as is everybody. The weird ones, the ones you shouldn't trust are the ones who claim they're not. How could you not be biased? Like, whether you are Rogan, Cowboy's his buddy. He's fighting somebody. Human beings, when they see their friend fighting someone, no matter how much they try to repress it, it's like, you'll see it. Ariel and Dana publicly dislike each other. Of course, one will be biased towards the other. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. Speaking of which, I'm going to get together with Paulie next week here on the YouTube channel. It's going to be really fun. He and I see the world totally differently, but I will guarantee you, as much as you think he's very, volatile, I will guarantee you he and I will be able to have an intelligent conversation. But anyway, so Holly is getting cracked by Jermaine Durandamy after the bell, and I am livid. Fucking bitch. And I'm screaming at the television. And then, I don't know, a couple hours later, I'm like, fuck, Holly, that's on you. Now you're looking at me going, what do you mean? That woman cheated. That's not cheating. That's not cheating. The referee stops the round. The bell is there to signal the referee. Protect yourself at all times. It's not cheating at all. There's nothing about that that's cheating. It is completely 100% within the rules. Now, it is shitty reffing. Definitely. But this is on Holly. And that's my, maybe Valentina Shevchenko, but this is one of my very favorite women fighters in the world. And I do separate them. I don't know why. It doesn't seem abnormal to me. But maybe if I don't and I undo and I go, nah, then she's still one of my 10 favorite fighters in the world, Holly. Which I also put Uriah in there, and I've mentioned Jorge, so we're running out of fighters pretty quick. But anyway, so I'm mad as shit, and then I'm like, no, Holly, that's on you. You must put yourself into a situation where if you are relying, I was going to hold up Bruce Lee again, if you're relying on that contract to protect you, you signed the thing. John Jones' name said he will not eye poke you, but you have fucking eyes that he's going to try to poke, but you have eyes that have seen that he pokes people. So why would you be surprised when he pokes you in the eye? Now, Holly didn't know that this particular fighter would throw punches after the bell, but when it happened a second time, that one is doubly on her. Remember that? It was like, say, round 2, boom, 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 cracks her hard. Then it happened again in round 3 or 4. Like, dude, that's on you. You must prepare for all of that. But these are the types of things that are interesting. They're out there. All of these, it's all there to examine. That's what water, the study of martial arts, that's what we're going to do. We're going to examine all of these things. We're going to examine all the things that we believe. You know, I've done a bunch of these in the build-up as I was trying to learn how the martial arts are changing right now. That there is that decentralization is happening. That people are not just accepting certain things. I've used the example of the outside foot, and I've used the example of Alistair Overeem, where he puts his head, and that's wrong, but yet you can't strike him, and if you do, he beats you. It's because you believe it's wrong. So if everybody, and if there's somebody out there watching that's come this far, you've come this far because we're speaking to each other, and you are a master's or a PhD in economics, reach out to me on Twitter. Let me know. I'd really like PhD level, because I need somebody that is nobody will try to undermine. But there are certain things that happen in the belief system of economics. If every single person, and it's not taught, at least it often isn't, and at most institutions it's not. You're taught about these laws and rules of economics, say mortgages, for example, and yet what is not discussed is human behavior. If we all go and tell everyone we know that owns a house, that has a blog about mortgages, we tell 20 or 30 key people that the housing market in Toronto is crashing, and those 20 or 30 key people get 200 or 300 other key people all repeating it, it'll fucking crash. It's just belief systems. Fighting's exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. And it's fucking fascinating. And so what we're trying to do is through like we always try to do, through learning and understanding these things in martial arts, we can apply them to the rest of the world. Martial arts is the lens that we can see how and why systems change, and how and why people change, and how and why beliefs change, and how and why you make something new work, and why something that did work fails. That's what we're trying to do here. I know it's out there, and I know that when you talk about decentralization or the collapsing or dissolving of things that people are very, very attached to, you will get denial, and you will get pushback, and you will get frustration. And I'm good with that, because this is the truth. This is what's happening. The pushback will stop when 6 or 8 other key people in their interviews start talking to all these coaches, and they're all confirming this. You don't have to do it. I've fucking had the conversations for the last 2.5 years. This is where they're going. It's where everybody's going. But you don't have to take my word for it. But I appreciate you being here this long. This is going to be, since Mark reached out to me in the last 6 months, I've had the most fulfilling 6 months of study and learning and growing that I've ever had in my life. I've learned more. And it's been amazing, and it's going to go further, and there's going to be moments where we go back and we rethink things. That's part of the journey. Going to go back and rethink some things. The idea that decentralization is a massive thing, it may only fucking last for 4 more months. We might be way too late to it. It's been going on for years. They've all been doing it. They've all been doing it at the highest level. That's where their minds, that's where all the best coaches, the best fighters. George St. Pierre studies white belts. Why? Because all the shit that we've assumed we can't do, some of them are doing it. It's like, oh, fuck, that guy just did this weird thing with his arm, and it worked. Shit, I've never tried that. And he tries it because we refine and refine and refine. And there's a great, great, great book that I'm reading. I've mentioned it a few times. I'm reading it a second time. It's called Simplexity, and it studies systems themselves and the behavior of complex systems. And fighting is a complex system. Many systems, many complex systems. Greg Jackson kind of turned me on to this thinking, as I said, in December when Cub fought Duho Choi. I've reached out to him through his manager. I was planning on trying to get in there for a couple days to shadow him next week, but we're going to talk to Polly. Me and Mark are going to go down to Chicago, have breakfast with Polly, talk to him about, he and I are seeing the martial arts combat very differently. So I want to talk to him about it. I'm going to learn a lot. And I'm not here to fucking protect anybody. But when you decide that a multiple-time world champion is an idiot, or whatever you decide, just because you don't like his personality, or you don't jive with it, or whatever, you're shutting a lot of doors, shutting a lot of doors. You're preventing yourself from learning. And besides, you're only offended if you let yourself be offended. I was offended last week by people sitting there who didn't understand what I was looking at and what I was so excited to see. That's on me. It's always on us. And we learn, we move on. And this is going to be a lot of fun. Please, Mojahed, please let him know you love the Open. And if the Open wasn't on here, then Mark fucked something up. So let him have it, but be easy. Mark's the best. So yeah, when next coming couple days, you could be watching this forever, but next couple of days we will be seeing Demetrius Johnson, the best in the world, try to break a record. He's still got to face a dangerous, dangerous young man. And people fuck up. And dangerous young men have great moments. So, but we'll be breaking that down and analyzing that in the coming days. Please, feedback is very valuable. I'm going to go deeper, and I'm going to go deeper, and I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to go find Greg Jackson. We're going to work on this together. I'm going to pick, not together. He's far out in front. I'm studying what they are doing. But he's going to help me make some sense of what I'm seeing. And I've reached out to Matt Hume a couple times. He's obviously quite busy right now, but we'll be reaching out to him as well, and others, because I have the great pleasure and privilege of being able to go study this stuff. And that's what we love to do. Anyways, I don't know how long we've been, but thanks again to Mojahed, and go find his thing with me and Max Kellerman. It's fucking hilarious. Thanks for everything, guys. Love. Blackout.